Oh, another video from the angry photographer. Warning, lens porn. I wanted to show you what I consider the best offerings from Zeiss. And yes, as I've stated before, please God don't ask me about the Milvis line. I am no fan of them for many reasons that I have enunciated time after time after time. Specifically, they've been redesigned for video use. The ergonomics are bad. They have more glass in them. Some of them do. Not a fan of them. Anyway, most of these are still made, regardless of those that are not still made, like the 35mm f2 and the 100mm Distagon macro planar. They're all still widely available from Japan for order from eBay. So in no particular order, my God, this is $10,000 worth of glass right here. I just just 7 lenses right here, and it's still $10,000 of the glass. Carl Zeiss, the 50mm f1.4. Absolutely exquisite lens. Like all of these, the micro contrast, color, depth, rendition on all of these are rather incredible. Some of the failings would be obviously striking focus, since these are all manual focus lenses. These are all ZF2 except for this is a ZF1, does not have CPU contacts. So all of these can be used in program mode, shutter priority, aperture priority, or manual. They are like a Nikkor AIP, a manual focus lens, which has handshake, bi-die communication contact with the camera, telling you what sort of lens it is, so it can be used in any mode. Secondly, far, far better than the Nikkor 85mm f1.4. And actually, far better buy. People think, well, this is Carl Zeiss, it's insanely expensive. Well, it's not. I mean, this is actually cheaper, and it's a far superior lens. This is also still current production lens. I could never imagine Zeiss ever not making the planar 85mm f1.4 anymore. Just a giant black hole of pure, sexy goodness. Pure silk, sex, and sugar. I'll eventually spit it out. I'll blame that on the cold, excuse me. Here we go. I just did a review on this one. It is the Zeiss Distagon 35mm f1.4. Alas, a rather expensive critter. Is still current production, but I have been told by inside sources that Zeiss is going to stop production on this as well. How true that is, I do not know. It is beautiful. It does have longitudinal chromatic aberrations below f2 in a high contrast scene. Say, for example, you're shooting something white in the sun against a darker background or relative matter around it. But that's easily taken care of in Lightroom or Photoshop. It is insanely expensive at $1,800. It is absolutely ginormous. It is just a huge, heavy beast. But it is also exquisite. In no particular order, also, next would be the 28mm Carl Zeiss Distagon f2.8. Now, it's available in ZF2. This one actually happens to be a ZF. There's no CPU contacts on it. I absolutely love it. It is very much akin, however, not as good, but not as good in a Carl Zeiss is like talking about a slightly inferior Lamborghini. Not as good as the Carl Zeiss, my best lens I've ever owned, period, flat out, bar none. One of the closest things to perfection that I've ever owned, in no particular order, the 35mm f2 Distagon that I've talked about at great length. No longer made. Current going price on it between $600 and $800. Still plenty of copies of this available in Asia. Now, if you have the 100mm Tachina macro, which many thousands of you do, especially off my recommendation, and you're all really happy. You want to stick your fingers in your ears right now. This lens isn't made anymore, this one. The macro planar, but stick your ears if you have a Tachina. This lens blows every other 100mm out of the water, but we're talking about a manual focus lens too, and we're talking about something far, 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 far more expensive than the Tachina 100mm 2.8. Now this is the macroplanar Carl Zeiss f2 100mm ZF2 CPU contacts. It is absolutely exquisite. It has an extremely long throw. on manual focus is insanely expensive. Typically, you can find them for about $1,100 plus used like new. From eBay, most of them are come out of Japan, but does this lens smoke the Tachyna? Yeah, but we're talking about something that is 4 times as expensive, rather rare, and manual focus only. So you can take that with a grain of salt if you have the Tachyna. So like, oh, you told us the Tachyna is the best. Well, it is the best. You're talking about $400 versus $1,200, and this is manual focus too, by the way. So understandably, the comparison there is kind of like apples and oranges. So someone will always say, well, you recommended this. Like, yeah, I do, but within the spectrum of what it is. I mean, that's not to say if you don't have an unlimited amount of money, you can't get something better. But better is still relative. I mean, are you willing to pay 4 times as much for something that is 3 to 4% better? Well, some people are, but most people aren't. And once again, like I said, it's a manual focus lens. And last but not least, of the 7 lenses that I brought out is the Distagon 18mm f3.5. Nice ultra wide from Carl Zeiss. Rather insanely expensive. Actually, let's call it astronomically expensive, but it is really exquisite. Would I actually rather have the, which I do have, the 20mm f1.8G Nikkor? Yeah, I certainly would. I got this lens for steel. Would I ever pay the price for it new? I may or may not, but it is an exquisite Carl Zeiss, and I cannot recommend the 15mm. The 15mm is a German-made Carl Zeiss lens, and it is insanely expensive. $2,300 typically for the lens. Used cost typically around $1,800. Used like new. I don't have it here. I've used it on a few occasions. I can't recommend it. One thing that Zeiss is not really good at, and that is ultra wides. And by not good, I mean they still do a good job, but considering the astronomical price, yeah, Nikon actually beats their ass. And that is also the case with the 21mm. That's also the reason the 21mm Carl Zeiss is not here. It is an unquestionable, undeniable fact by anybody with 2 brain cells that the 20mm 1.8G Nikkor blows the hell out of everybody, and it's really the only Nikkor lens that even hardcore Zeiss files will admit that Nikon, just smoked Zeiss's ass when it came to the 20mm 1.8G compared to the 21mm Carl Zeiss lens, which is its equivalent. So here we go. These are my 7 favorite Carl Zeiss lenses. Even used, a bit astronomically expensive, looking at about $10,000 here, which admittedly is rather absurd, especially for a doofus like me that is driving a car with 100,000 miles on it that needs a few minor car repairs. You gotta have priorities, right? So, but anyway, I want to show that to you, and those are my recommendations for Carl Zeiss. And let's end this video by saying Jawohl! Jawohl, jawohl. Okay, catch you later. Bye. Goodbye.